All right, 8th graders, we're getting ready for our dissection in a couple of weeks on Squalus acanthius. That is our dogfish shark. That is the scientific name for it. Let's start with some basic anatomical terms. And what you see before you, we've got a cat, 4 legs, as you can see. We call that a quadruped. Dog, 4 legs as well, quadruped. And then we've got humans right here, and they are bipeds, 2 legs. So there are 6 basic anatomical terms I want you to be super familiar with. Anything in a quadruped or a aquatic animal towards the head or the head region is known as cranial or anterior. If it's the tail region, that's caudal or posterior. If it's the back side, that would be dorsal, and that's going to be especially true with the shark dorsal fins, right? We see one in the water, we freak out. And then the belly side is ventral, and you can see that was definitely true in the shark, or the dog here, dorsal, ventral, posterior, and anterior. Now, it's a little bit different in humans. Humans, we don't really use dorsal and ventral in humans to describe our belly and our back. We use anterior and posterior. So that's how it's a little bit different. Other than that, we're good to go. And our anterior and posterior being our front and back. In a cat, that's the head and tail. In a human, our head and our feet are superior and inferior. So you might remember that when we studied the heart, we talked about the superior vena cava, inferior vena cava. The superior vena cava is just closer to the head. Inferior vena cava is closer to our feet. So you notice that we've already actually used those terminologies when we made the study of the heart. The other set of words, basic anatomical terms I want you to know, are medial and lateral. Medial just means along the midline. So think of organs that lie along the midline. That would be our heart, and our lungs are pretty close to the midline. And our stomach is along the midline. Lateral means away from the midline. And so things like our hands are away from the midline. Our feet are away from the midline, generally speaking. Okay? So those 6 terminologies are going to come up in the dissection. So let me flip to another slide. And this is the sheet that you received in class. And I want you to focus in on numbers 1 through 6. Don't worry about 7, 8, and 9. Those are asking you to identify planes. We're not doing those planes. You'll learn those in an upper level anatomy class when you get to high school or college. Okay, you see your word bank right here. You're going to use these words to fill in numbers 1 through 6. Now number 1 is right here, and that is pointing to the back of the shark. Now remember, the back of the shark is just like the back of a cat or a dog. Aquatic creatures, as well as quadrupeds, we name those parts similarly. Now the opposite of 1 is going to be 4. 4 is the belly of the shark. 2 and 3 are opposites. 2 is pointing towards the head region. 3 is towards the tail. Okay? 5 and 6. 5 is showing, and 5 is right here. 5 is showing the midline. Hopefully you remember that name I gave you just a second ago. And 6 is away from the midline. So hopefully that'll help you fill in your sheet. And go ahead and fill that in, and we'll check it in class tomorrow. If you have any questions at all, let me know, and I'll be glad to clear that up when we get back together. Thanks for listening.